Hello, ladies. We are together today so that we can talk about social media, specifically us being on social media. I know there's lots of conversations going on about what to do with our teenagers who are constantly on their phones and posting things. But guess what? We're posting things too. And I think how we behave online, what we're sharing online, what we do professionally impacts our family and it impacts our kids, especially when it's on social media because it's for all the world to see. So I really wanted to dig deep into this topic because it's something that we've quite frankly never had to think about before. It's social media is not new anymore, but we're starting to see the ripple effects of its newness years ago and how it's impacting our children and our family members. And so I thought we could talk a little bit about this subject. What do you guys think?
I'm in. I'm in.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about our posting strategies.
All
At
right.
least
So
when it comes to our kids.
yeah. So when I first, so Facebook was the first thing, right? Facebook rolled out. We were super excited to share everything. That's how we kept in touch with everybody. That's how my parents knew what was going on, how we could kind of show off to our friends from college and people we weren't in touch with anymore. And now social media has become so much more than that. And this issue of, are we posting our children? And if we're doing that, when, where, how has become something that we need to talk about. So tell me a little bit, you guys, like, do you have any policies on this? Do you show your kids or not show your kids? That's the question.
My policies have changed and evolved, which is allowed in parenting.
Yes.
Just need to say that for myself. Anyways, I don't post without their permission. Now, context is I have teenagers. So it's a little bit different because their friends are on social media. Neither of my children at this point of the recording have social media. Or I should say, they don't have social media apps on their phone. I mean, they've looked at TikTok videos with us, and I'm sure they've seen stuff on Instagram, whoever they're sitting next to, but they themselves don't have those apps on their devices. And that's the decision that we've made. But because the majority of their friends don't have weird parents like they do, who have these crazy ideas, we have made a decision to not, my husband doesn't do social media at all. Okay. So I'm the only culprit in this family. And so I've made the decision to not post anything about any of them, even my husband, without their explicit permission, because it upsets them when I don't. And I think for me, it took me a little bit of time, but I realized, like, I guess I would ask anybody for their permission at this point if I can put their photo on my account, because now, people can, you don't know people's stories and as to why they don't want to be on social media. Maybe it could be for a safety reason. Who knows? Obviously, that's not the case for my kids, so to speak. But like, I would want to extend the same courtesy to my teenage children and obviously my husband that I would do with anybody else. Now, when they were babies and toddlers, they were like constantly on social media. And do I regret that? Well, let's talk about that later. But I want to hear what Jess has to say. What do you do, Jess?
Well, actually, I'm surprisingly similar to you, Noelle. My kids don't have social media on their own devices. They don't have those accounts, but their friends do.
Okay.
And their friends actually follow me, which is like weird.
Yeah.
Kind of. I'm like, why are you following me? Like, I have all these like middle schoolers following me.
Yep.
But so again, I don't post anything about them unless I ask them if I can. But I also don't post anything that would reflect poorly on them at any point.
Yeah.
Like, even if it could be manipulated or misconstrued, it's really like praiseworthy posts are pretty much all that I post about my kids. Again, like, I think about fast forward, 15 years down the road when their employer is like looking for who they are and what they're about. And, I don't want something that I posted that I thought was funny because they were being cheeky in a moment
Right.
to reflect poorly on them,
Yeah.
down the road. So, but I will say this, I changed that policy relatively recently. So when I sort of took on a more professional social media presence, that's when that policy changed. Before that, I only had a private social media account, and no one could see any, no one,
Right.
quotations,
Right.
could see my posts unless I was personally friends with them.
Right.
And we started posting pictures of our kids. We didn't want to do that initially at all, but we moved abroad, so we were living internationally, and the easiest way to share our day-to-day life overseas was actually social media. That's how all the grandparents could see what the kids were up to, what they were doing, and all of that. But we had friends that we met early when we were young parents who were adamant, like, do not put your kids on social media. You're stealing their privacy. Like, how will they ever have a choice? So we felt a bit convicted at first about starting to
Little
post,
shame.
but
Little shame
yeah,
goes a long
totally. Some
way.
Christian shame.
That's
Yeah.
funny that you said the overseas thing, because I think we used a lot of Facebook to post about our kids because we were overseas as well. And that was just where,
Yeah.
hey, if you want to see what they wore on Halloween, you're gonna have to
Yep.
check Facebook. So I totally get that aspect. Kimberly, what is your policy?
So I have not really had a policy. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this, because so my platform is all about family.
Right.
And so, I sit on some of these, like we're all in called creatives, and you sit and you listen to these trainings, and they're like, if it's your professional account, you don't need to be posting your kids. And I'm like, but I think I need to show my kids, like, I'm talking about family, my family culture, what it is that we do, what it is that we love. Like, and part of a lot about what I speak about on this podcast, and a lot of what I speak about in the work that I do, is the things that have transformed our family and made us who we are, and given us our identity and our family brand, and what's made us a family team. And so it's so integrated into the work that I do that it's hard to leave them out of it. So I just was like, yeah, heck yeah, I'm going to post them all over the place. And especially if I have really cute pictures of them. And so I started to feel bad when I heard people online saying, don't post your kids. Why are you posting your kids? I never, or somebody else was like, I never show my kids' faces. And I was like, what do you mean? And so
wait, can I just stop there for a second?
yes.
Yeah, come on, Noelle.
Okay. I do think it's, and I hope this doesn't ruin the ratings of your show, but
No,
I do.
I mean, I don't know what you're going to say, but I hope not.
I feel like, when people post a picture of their family and they put a sticker on their kid's face,
Mhm.
or they blur it out, I feel like it makes everything feel very suspicious. You know what I'm saying? It's like as if their kids are like wanted suspects for some sort of crime.
Oh
or
gosh.
like
Right.
there's a story behind it. I'm like, and listen, I'm just being blunt, and
Yeah.
your listeners are
Well,
just gonna get used to
I have
it.
a friend who does that, but she only does it because she fosters kids.
That I
Right.
respect
And
for.
those are foster kids. So her
Yes.
little, the covering, that
Yes.
is a protective thing, but
Yes.
not
Yes.
for everybody. That's true.
Not for everybody. Yes, I totally get that 100%. But
Yeah.
I know people, and I'm like,
Yeah.
why are you blurring? Just don't put the
Their kids are in the
photo up.
witness protection program.
Don't put the photo up. But
Yeah.
okay, I know that's a very unpopular opinion what I just said. So
No, I mean, I get
it's
it. I
okay.
mean, I would rather not post it than have that on it. Like if I understand
Yeah.
that the foster child,
Right.
that's a completely
Different story.
different
story.
story. I'm
Yeah.
behind that.
But if I
100%.
was posting my own children but didn't want you to see them, I just wouldn't post
Yeah, why
it.
post it?
Yeah, like,
I'm with
yeah.
you. Sam.
Yeah.
It seems silly. Like,
Yeah.
why take the photo? Just take you and your husband if you just want people to see that you're like part of a family, or I don't
Yeah.
know. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I have been challenged because, like you, a lot of my children's friends will follow me on Instagram.
Yeah.
mhm.
And they will like things. And we may talk about more about this later, but I've had different sorts of feedback from my kids. It's not like, I guess the biggest, well, number one, they don't want me to post a picture of them where they're ugly. So
Oh,
like a
gosh,
picture that
yeah.
I think is beautiful and they
That's
think is horrible of themselves. And I'm
that's a
like, you look
reasonable request.
stunning. And they're like,
Yeah.
it's an awful picture of me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
we're going to do this. We're going to argue over that. Like, this is going to be the thing. So I haven't really listened to my kids' wishes on that. Like, I'm not a taker downer. Like,
Yeah.
like, I'm just kind of like, you look gorgeous. Shut up. Like,
Yeah.
it's staying there. I got 50 likes on that. There's no way I'm taking that down. Like, I am not a
Gonna
good
mess with
your
parent in that
algorithm.
respect.
It's gonna mess with your algorithm if you take it down.
We're
Suck
not
it up,
doing
Oh,
kid.
my word.
Mommy's gotta
Um,
mommy's gotta grow the platform.
Well,
Excuse me.
recently, so for the first time, I had my daughter join me in a little video
Right.
for
I
my
saw that.
Instagram.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it was about her. Like
Yeah.
it was basically like a testimony of something great that she had done.
Mhm.
And I was like, this is worth sharing, because when you raise a kid, well, and you raise them to know Jesus, they grow up and they help other kids. And this is what happened.
Right.
And so I asked her, I said, hey, do you want to join me and like talk about it with me, for Instagram? And at first she was like, I don't know, like, I don't know how to do that, and felt quite uncomfortable. And I said, hey, we can just sit here, we'll have a conversation. If you don't like it, I won't post it. And I said, but I'll let you watch it. And if you think it's okay, then, I'd love to share it from your mouth, because it's your
Mhm.
story.
Right.
And she goes, okay, mom. So we sat there and she told her story. And like you, Kim, like everybody loved that post. They were like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. But I think that though you have to be selective, like
Yeah.
what you're going to post, and make sure that they're on board. Like they can own that, because
Mhm.
that's their life, not yours. And,
Yeah.
especially like
Yeah.
Noelle, we have middle schoolers, we don't have
Right.
teeny babies that really, they can't talk back to us
Right.
yet.
They're like friends in like daycare aren't like trash talking them because of something their mom posted. But I have a funny story. So it's not funny, but it's interesting in that I'm on TikTok because I do comedy. So if you're gonna look me up on Instagram or TikTok, it's going to be I'm a character of some sort. So it's not always it's not appropriate to put my family in the feed because it doesn't really work. But you may see them occasionally in like an Instagram story. But because a lot of my comedy has to do with New Jersey, the way TikTok works is it feeds that information to people who are local to me, first and foremost, but also anybody in Jersey. So my kids' friends all for the most part follow me. And like when they see me, they're always quoting a line from like a skit or whatever. The funny thing is my kids they don't think it's funny, like because it's mom, so they don't know any of this stuff. They don't know like the skits. They're not on social media, so they don't get it. But I had one child who someone went up to them in school and was trying to like burn them for me being on TikTok, and they're like, oh, I saw your mom on TikTok. And my child was like, well, weird. Why are you watching my mom on TikTok? That's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yes,
And the
I
kid
love
was,
your kids.
and the kid was like, oh, and then everybody else was like, yeah, why are you watching her mom on TikTok? That's like weird. And then he just like turned around and like it just didn't work. But because I think I sometimes have to remember like that what I do online is probably it could be reaching people I don't actually expect, like seventh grade boys, and how will they use that fodder against my kid. I was happy that they were able to handle it in that moment, but I would hate for it to be something that's like something I have to deal with every day in school. That's been a big concern for me. So I'm still navigating that. I got no good answers on that, but that is definitely, I'm like, whew, I hope this isn't like a thing that they've got to have to always handle. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's not my kids that have given me a hard time. It's
Right.
their friends or people that they know that give them a hard time. That's when
Right.
it becomes an issue.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
my kids, they just grew up with me posting things, and they know I do this podcast, and they know that I do good work, and I speak somewhere, and I do this. But I've shared a few things, and it's their friends that will say something. So I can remember the first time I posted about, I had an episode on teaching your kids about sex. And I wasn't explicit in the comments, but I said something in my caption. So here's the thing. Their friends aren't just looking at the pictures, they're reading the captions. And it was
Yeah.
like something about talking to your kids about sex from an early age, start when they're young, make it normal, that kind of thing. And they were like, oh, like, like just stupid stuff. Another thing, I
Right.
described something that my son had said to me. His friends had called him a tryhard. And so I kind of did a post on like, what's up with this tryhard like anti-tryhard mentality, like in our
Right.
culture today, right? So
Right.
his friends are like, oh, dude, you totally told your mom what we said. Again, they had to read that whole caption. They had to hit more to see what I had to say about it, but they read it and they're saying these things to him. And he did give me a hard time, but he was also like, it's okay, mom. Like, it's what you do. Like, he's like, it's okay
Wow.
if I'm a tryhard. Like, and he was okay with it. So that was the beginning of me starting to become more intentional about what I was saying.
Right.
If I'm referencing a child, I'll say a child. I won't call their name out. Like, I won't tell you which one was the one who said something to me that caused me to think, or, you know what I mean? I try to sort of be vague and clearly only share really positive things, positive takeaways.
Yeah. I mean, I'm listening to this and this is a very interesting conversation because it's tough. Our our kids' stories are also our stories too.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
mixes. And like I think about my own child who he said, I can talk about this, don't worry. But like he has a disability and he has an amazing story. We've gone through so many things. And some of it we've documented via social media. But then I'm at the point now where I'm like, whoa, like I gotta be careful that this story doesn't become like exploited in a sense. Like I need to let
Yeah.
this be his because it's really powerful. It's really encouraging, but it's tough to know the line. Like, as a mom, I have my perspective of watching my kid go through something and overcome and, have a really positive outcome. But like you were saying, I think Jess, you were saying like years from now, how does this play out for him?
Mm-hmm.
Does
Yeah.
he really want that to be like in internet
The
history
thing that
the,
people grab a hold of.
and or even define him?
Yeah.
So it's just now I feel a little bit hesitant to putting this stuff online because I don't know. I have like I can't even like really put like good words to it, but I just have a little bit of a check in my spirit is like the Christianese way of saying it. A little
Yeah.
like thing inside of me going, just don't post that yet. If you need to say that, maybe say it, with friends, like, oh my gosh, or call up your friend, be like, this amazing thing happened, or like, look how far we've come. But maybe the whole world doesn't need to know that. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's
Yeah.
just for me in my situation, but it's tricky to see like when is it their story and when is it also my story and who gets to tell it.
Right. And then also you run that balancing act of being real, being
Yep.
authentic,
Yep.
right? Like this is real life. Family life, it's messy. Kids are messy, they're hard, they're great. They make your head swivel every day, and saying those types of things like which, you know, could be demeaning, and
Yeah.
when a middle schooler grabs a hold of it, right?
Right.
And it's
Right.
like, "Oh, your mom hates you," kind of a thing or whatever. Like
Right. Right.
middle schoolers are incredibly creative in
Yeah.
their bullying. They are. Like I'm telling you, I read some of my daughter's text messages like because, I'm that parent. But no, like I said last time, I'm this bark thing like just
Yeah.
shows me when there's something I should be aware of. So I'm like reading these things. I'm like, where are these kids coming from?
Yeah.
Seriously. How
Yeah.
do they even come up with this stuff? I don't think I was ever that cool. And maybe I was, and nobody just documented it. It wasn't there for all the
Right.
world to see. But yeah, I think that's the thing that I worry about the most is that someone will grab a hold, they'll grab a hold of one thing, one off color comment, and then it will literally morph into the most awful experience for my child.
Yeah. Those
Yep.
are some really great things to consider. I was listening, I went to an author's reading, speaking event here locally. And it was Danny Shapiro who wrote the book Inheritance, which
Mm.
is an autobiography. And the question was asked, like, how do you know what you can share in a book, since you're sharing other like things that are going on in other people's lives. And I love her answer, because she talked about an instance that she shared in the book about her daughter. And she said about how her daughter, I can't remember if it was an argument or something, but anyways, the daughter ended up going into her room and shutting the door. And she's like, it's my story is to not, it's not my job to tell her story, nor it is my right to tell her story. She's like, but I am going to tell you my story, what happened on my side of the door. So I'm going to tell you how I felt, how it impacted me. I can't go into her details and her specifics, but I do have a story to tell that comes out of it. And if I can keep that in mind, I'm probably not doing this explanation justice, but this idea of what's happening on my side of the door, I can share. Right. What's happening on her side of the door, I can't share. So what is it about? So I challenge myself when I go to write a caption and I go to write something. I'm like, am I telling her story for people, or am I just telling my story? Like trying to differentiate between the two as I'm writing these things down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I hate to say this though. I mean, this is the part that's, I'm going to be the Debbie Downer, but I just get so concerned because the tenor of the culture is they take one little line and it can be exploited, exaggerated, like flipped on it. I mean, we've seen this, and I'm not like trying to get into anything here, but I've just cancel culture so thick.
Yep.
And I am a person who really believes in, obviously, like freedom of speech. Like I'm passionate on stuff, but I'm also like a little bit, I'm honest, like sometimes I'm afraid that something could be misconstrued and used against my kid,
Yeah.
So it's like, I think this is an important conversation to talk about now, because I don't want to make decisions what I do and not do based out of fear. That's what we're about in family culture, right? But I do want to be a logical decision based out of what is reality of right now and what is best for my family. It can be hard to see the line, but I like what you said about Danny, saying that they wrote from their side of the door, but I would say you take it even a step further now and be like, you'd almost have to explicitly say, this is my like account of what happened on my side of the door. And these are my thoughts.
All the disclaimers.
You almost have to disclaimer everything now.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, it's like it's a bit of a hassle. So sometimes I'm like, I'm not even gonna talk about this.
Yeah.
I don't want
the other thing that I love, I just want to say, so Kim and Noelle, you guys both mentioned like how your kids handled circumstances that were brought up, from your social feeds. So I think that also is part of this whole conversation. It's like we have to raise kids that are strong enough in their own self-confidence that no matter what comes their way, whether it's from their mother's social media feed or their own or whatever, that they have to own that and be strong enough to overcome whatever might be headed their way.
Yeah.
And so I think that's also part of it. It's like we can't control the internet. We just can't. It's out there. Like, I mean, I'm sure we've posted incriminating photos of our kids. I know I have.
Yeah.
And I don't even know where they are at this point. Like, it would be impossible to reel back into history and be like, oh, that's not a great photo,
I'll find them.
So I think it's just giving our kids tools to deal with people as they come and as they're horrible, and say mean things or whatever, to have them rise above that and say, does their opinion really matter, or does mine? My opinion should matter more. I gave birth to you. I love you far more, and I feed you every day. So, hey.
Yeah.
Well, I had my oldest, she told me, one of her girlfriends, she's like, Mom, she said that low key, your Instagram account is her favorite account. Like,
low key.
Like, yeah, it's kind of like,
don't tell her, but I really love her account.
But don't tell anyone, because I'm a teenager and your mom's account is my favorite account. But so that, like, like that was almost confirmation to my daughter that I don't want to say that I'm doing the right thing, but like that I'm doing something that matters. I mean, I hope I'm doing something that matters. And so that felt really good to have her say that. And for the most part, my kids have been pretty sort of like, like, it's all right. It's all right. Yeah, I know. and they will
We
like,
forgive you, mom,
yeah.
for being on social
Right.
media.
Yeah. We'll get pictures done that I share on social media, and my girls, they want to see how they turned out. Even my son, let me see.
Of
And they'll
course.
tell me which ones it's okay for me to post. And then they always want that birthday pic post. Oh my gosh, if I forget the birthday post, because that's what they share on with their friends, and their friends all get to see it. And so there's this sort of tension with my kids. And so I do want to be attuned to what they have to say, but I also, and then, post and with wisdom, but at the same time, like, still fulfill what I feel like I'm called to do and share what I feel like I'm called to share. So,
Well, that's a huge piece to it. I think our kids have to know why we're posting. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
I there's a difference between just posting some pictures of your children because you want to, because you're the mom, and this is what I get to do because I'm the mom.
Mhm.
And it's like upsetting them, right?
Yeah.
But then there's like, well, I post, this is like relevant to what I do, right, as like part of my calling.
Mhm.
If they understand the why behind it, and it's not just to like embarrass them or whatever, but they
Mhm.
understand, okay, well, like mom does silly comedy stuff because this is what she does. They sort of they can get behind it a little bit more,
Mhm.
Right.
if there's no reason to it. Well, I mean, think about that. I don't know if I like my mom posting a bunch of pictures of me if there's no reason to it. I'd kind of be like, mom,
Right.
like, what are you doing?
Like, enough
You
already.
look like you're
Please.
obsessed with me. Stop it, And
Oh, I
that's not
think
good
I
for
think
My
that's in
mother's
my
my
notes
stalker.
somewhere. My mom does that. Did I put that in the notes? My mom always
No.
posts pictures of me, especially ones I don't like, and tags me. So they go in my feed, and my friends will come up to me and be like, "Oh my gosh, I saw your hair in the 80s." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Thanks,
I
Mom.
know."
See?
And I'll
See?
untag myself because
See?
I'm like, "Why are you doing that?"
I have a
See?
cousin that does the same thing. I don't know how she finds all these images. I don't know where they came from. I didn't give them to her, but she has them, and literally she'll tag me, and I'm like, no, that was like a perm circa 1985 with red plastic glasses. Please help a sister out. Like,
Yeah.
don't tag me in that.
Yeah, but that's so
So
in right now.
yeah, I know.
Perm
I
and the red
probably would look cool.
glasses.
Yeah.
You'd be so cool right now.
Like, yeah, well, we could maybe
I'm just
I don't know.
saying.
There's got to be like an Instagram filter I could try it out without actually doing it.
Well, I will say the one thing that I have listened to my kids about, not that I don't listen to them, but if I post something political, and I don't often post things political, but when I think there's things that I feel like I need to say or that I just want to share with people, I will hide their friends from being able to see those in stories. Did you know that you
Ooh, how
could
do you
go
do that?
in?
I didn't know you could do that.
Yes, you can go in. Well, once I did it because I was going somewhere and I knew I was going to post, and I knew there were people that weren't really invited and I didn't want them to
Oh.
see it. So then my friend's like, you can hide it. And I was like, really? It's horrible,
Fancy.
but I don't know if I should edit
Now
that
all
part
your friends are gonna be trying to figure out
Now
what they
they'd be
were
like,
not
where did she
invited
go that I
to.
wasn't invited?
What was I not invited to?
It wasn't my fault. I did not invite them. Anyways, there is a setting.
That's a whole nother podcast.
So there is a setting where you can go in and you can choose the people that you don't want to see your story. And so if I post something that they've let me know, like they just don't want to get pushed back, they just don't want to deal, that I will go in and I'll find at this point, there's only about maybe 10 kids that follow me that my friends care, that my children care about. Meaning that there's other kids at their school that they're just not close with, that they don't really care if they see me. I'll go in and I'll like click all those names off. But then I'm admitting I dressed up for Halloween and I looked super cute, and none of their friends got to see it because I forgot to turn the setting back on.
Yeah, but I didn't see it either.
You didn't?
No, am I on
No,
this
I think that
list?
needs to be a repost, Kim.
I think that's
Yeah.
an algorithm issue. Yeah, I will. I guess I'll have to repost.
You need to, yeah, because I never saw it either, and you told me about it, and now I'm so like curious. You
What?
need to
Okay,
post
Kim,
it.
what were you? Like, we're just
Cruella.
going off topic. Oh,
But the
okay, I need to
new
see this.
Cruella,
The new Cruella.
I need to see this.
the
Yeah.
sexy Cruella.
Yeah.
It was very cool. The makeup, everything, I did all of it. It was so fun. But yeah, so you can hide. So I will hide. I have, and I will continue to take into consideration what my kids have to say about that. And if it's something that's a hot topic, that's just not something they want to deal with, that's fair. And I'll just go ahead and I'll hide those posts.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've run into this as well, which I think is, I don't know, awkward at this point at best, is, I'm a Christian author. Like, I talk about Jesus pretty much all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, my kids' friends and their circle of influence is not all Christian.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so then there's like these unrealistic expectations set on my kids and on myself, to be fair, that we're like supposed to be some like holier than thou family. And, my kids should never, ever do anything wrong or even like mildly disobedient, And so there's this perfectionism sort of set over them. And we've only just started to see the fringes of that. So that's something else that I don't really know how to deal with. I don't know how to tell, my kids, like, you don't have to be perfect. Like, being Christian doesn't mean that you have to be perfect. It just means that you want to, you want to do your best to be like Jesus, who was perfect, but you're never going to get there. And that's okay.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, that's hard.
Half the kids at my children's school, which I knew about this 2 years ago, but then I was just recently reminded about, knew me as Jesus Kim.
Oh my goodness.
Even the teachers, it got to the point where like,
Kim,
it even got to the point where like one of them, like kids that weren't friends with my kids, or like they were acquainted with my kids and kind of knew me from over the years, and their moms are friend with me. They'd be like, yeah, Jesus Kim. And they'd say it in class. And the history teacher, they knew like, my son's mom is Jesus Kim. And
too good. I'm sorry, Kim. This is too good. You need to own that hashtag. You're Jesus Kim.
Somebody
change
now
your
on.
handle.
I tried a different versions of it because I was like,
Like,
oh, that'd be so fun if I was Jesus Kim. Your friends would love this. And she's like, no, don't do that. And I'm like, oh no, I'm going to do it.
This show needs to be rebranded as Family Culture with Jesus Kim.
Yes.
That's what needs to happen next.
Well, I could never pull it off because it would be more like Jesus, Jess. Like, it would never be the like actual Jesus Kim.
Yes. So, and it still lingers, we've had some new friends come in the house lately and they're like, oh yeah, we know Jesus Kim. Like, oh, really? Because I just met you. And they're like, no, we knew 2 years ago. I'm like, oh, okay.
Now, wait a minute. Are all of these families, are they like from all different walks of life? And that's why it's like, oh yeah, we know her because she's the Christian one.
All different walks of life, I would say.
Like, in other words, like they
don't go to church.
They've got Jewish friends, they've got Islamic or Muslim friends.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
they
have.
You come from a very small town.
I come from it's a very small town. There's like my daughter's graduating class was 140, maybe 135.
It's tiny.
And so like, all you need is like half of our friends have, 3 to 4 kids, and all you need is for one to tell the other and then the other. And it just kind of has become this thing. And so I would say that, we've we're a Christian family and people know it. And I talk about it online and, I don't think anybody's paying attention, but they are. So yeah.
Well, I think that also begs the question too, Noelle. So how big is your kids' school? Is it like humongous?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's huge.
We have 1,200.
Yeah.
And
it's about the same.
like
1,200 in the school? No, in the.
Well, yeah, it's just about 600 per grade. But that's a lot of kids. Like I wouldn't even know, because my account is public. There could be kids following me. I wouldn't even know to deselect them for stories.
Oh, yeah.
So that would become an almost impossibility for me to go in and like, I don't know.
I'm more concerned about the besties, like the 6 or 7 people that are in and out of my house.
Yeah.
Sit at lunch table with my kids.
Yeah.
That's
but who's to say, well, like you said, you're in a smaller town, so those besties are really, really like critical. My kids have best friends, but who's to say that some other snot-nosed kid in the school doesn't see something and then it like shoots like wildfire, and then all of a sudden the besties are like, I didn't see that. Like, how did they see that? And then I'd feel really bad. So sorry.
Now I gotta think about that.
Crush that.
No,
option for me is off the table now. No, because it's a good point. That's a good point. I wouldn't know. I would not know who's following me. I don't know who's following me.
So here's a question. Is Facebook different than Instagram? And I have some thoughts on this.
I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I think that people can be judgy about not posting your children on Instagram, but yet they post them on Facebook. And here's the thing about Facebook is that I don't go on Facebook anymore because I am emotionally not strong enough to see that everybody's having fun without me, that everyone's going on vacations that I'm not going on, or that their kids are accomplishing more than me, period. End of story. Like,
Wow.
Wait, so are you saying that that's more of an issue on Facebook than Instagram?
So like, yes, I don't think you see
Okay.
as much of that on Instagram, or at least not in the way you see it. I feel like Facebook, everyone posts a ton of stuff. They don't second guess whether or not they should post their kids, but you're posting it. So for me, if I post my kids on Facebook, more people that we know are seeing it than if I post them on Instagram. So like,
I think that's a generational thing.
right?
I think that's a generational thing. Yeah.
So like
Because
100 of my friends in town are seeing everything I post on Facebook, but maybe 15 are seeing what I post on Instagram.
But
and I would say that's in general. What do you think about that? I mean, like, so people that I know that you're only friends with, right? So only the people that you're friends with on Facebook see your stuff.
yeah.
But I feel like more people see your stuff than people that you don't know. So it's this idea of strangers versus people you know. And like, I would rather have strangers see my kids on Instagram than the person that lives down the street that's nosy, knowing what's going on in my kid's life on Facebook.
But then I guess for me, well, first of all, you can actually, and you should be aware of the settings of privacy on Facebook, because if you're not aware of them, anybody can see anything. But so I adjust those. But I think for me, what has been helpful for me just in general, and I try to apply it in all the areas of social media, less of Facebook, which I think you bring up a good point, is why am I showing up on social media at all? And if I'm answering that question, typically my kids are not going to be equation. Now, every once in a while I may share like an old photo of them on Facebook, because I do have my settings set in a way where the people I want to see that photo will see it, you know, and the people I don't won't. But for TikTok and Instagram, I have a reason why I'm showing up now, and it doesn't include my kids. Now, and I have a very specific thing I do on social media. And I think where it gets tricky is when you don't have if you're just showing up on social media because that's what you do. I think this is a harder question to answer. If you're just bringing your life to social media, and there's nothing wrong with that, that's your decision, your choice. But I think this is where you have to have some boundaries that you design for you and your family. But for me, it's like, well, I now show up on social media to do comedy and promote what I'm doing. So it's, you know, there's just some things you're never now. I think if you scrolled a year ago, you see some of my kids, but now you ain't gonna see any. You're not even seeing my husband. You don't see anything, nothing. You don't even see my mother, who I pretty much the skits are based off of. So, and that has brought a lot of. She doesn't like that. She's not on social media though. So that helps me a lot. But that brings actually a lot of freedom to me.
Yeah.
To know what to post. I'm not as like, crap, did I post that? You know, oh, who's going to see it? It's just, that's not happening for me as much. So answering that question has been a huge gift to know why I'm showing up on social media.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, Kim, you made a good point. Like your professional social media brand is about your family. So there's a reason that you're showing images and stories from your family. Like, I'm not a mommy blogger, even though I definitely am speaking to moms, but that's not like my niche.
Right.
So, I don't need to post a ton of pictures of my kids or my husband or anything. It's like, no, if it's relevant to what the story I'm telling of the day, then maybe, but I'm very particular about doing that. And like you said, Noah, your thing is comedy. Like, you're just showing up, having a bit of fun, and it's not about your kids or your family. Like, that's not your topic and why you're showing up.
I even have a
So
TikTok video it's about me. It's a parody kind of thing. And it's what happens if you grew up doing drama club, but your kid is an athlete, and just the mistakes you make. Because I still call my kids' uniforms costumes, and their practices, I still call them rehearsals. It's still an
Yes.
issue. So I have like a TikTok video about that. And my one child agreed to be a voice. Their face
Great.
is not in the video.
Yep.
So, and they love the fact that they got to be the voice. And they also love the fact that their face is not in the video. So I found
Yeah.
ways to like incorporate, because hey, if we can do this together, have a bit of fun and make people laugh together, that's awesome.
Love
That's
it.
a value. Look at this.
Yes.
Dropping some family culture vocabulary here, Kimberly.
Nice. I love it.
Fun is a value for my family. And this is the best way to do that, to both protect their privacy, help them not to get, made fun of in middle school to the best of my ability. I can't control that, but we found a way. So I think you can get creative too.
Mhm.
I
So
love that.
yeah, no, I love that. I mean, I want my kids to get more involved in some of the stuff that I'm doing. I've had them do a couple videos for me and they've had some fun with it, but it's just, they're not consistent. Sometimes they're excited about it and sometimes they're like, oh, please don't ask me to do it.
Yeah. I think the other thing to like teach our kids about, social media and their presence and all that. I have a very close friend of mine. As a young adult, she made a comment that was flippant. It was like a flippant joke, right? And someone caught a video of it and posted her and tagged her. She didn't like think anything of it,
Wow.
right? It was just a flippant comment made, really, like, it was in context and it was really horrible, but ultimately she had to move. She got fired from her job. She had to quit college and move out of the city that she was in because
Oh
it
my
was
gosh.
so devastating to her.
Wow.
And she moved, like, we're talking like hundreds of miles away. And to this day, like, when she goes out on a date, she literally has to tell people, like, hey, this is who you're gonna if you Google me or you Facebook me or whatever, you're gonna find this. I just want you to know that I've grown past that girl. And this has been like a through line in her life
Wow.
because
my
of one
gosh.
flippant comment, right?
Yeah.
So I shared that story because they know this young lady and they love her. I mean, she's amazing. She's like
Right.
this really sweet, beautiful, young lady. And I said, that's her story.
Mm.
And so just be aware that everything that you say, everything, like, even if it's quote unquote funny at the time, if it can be misconstrued or manipulated in such a way to make you out to be a villain, a horrible person, it's likely that that is going to happen. Someone's going to grab a hold of it and
Mhm.
splash it everywhere. And it can
Yep.
be detrimental to your life and your future. So just be really aware of, what you're posting, who you're going to become when you get to be on social media. My daughter keeps asking, Mom, when do I get Instagram? Mom, when do I get TikTok? Mom, mom, mom. And I'm like, never.
Yeah.
We didn't, thank God we
Never.
didn't have to deal with any of that when I was in my 20s. I
Yeah.
can't even imagine the stupid stuff I could have said.
Goodness gracious.
Oh gosh, I would
Yeah.
never be able to do what I do today if there was social media when I was in my 20s. Forget
No.
it.
No.
Nope.
Well, that's a different episode. I'm not even gonna bring up what I was going to say, but yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Mm.
So what are some questions we can ask our kids to start the conversation about social media and us? What do you guys think? Because I want to give our listeners a way to start the conversation, some practical tools. So we can talk a little bit about, what should we be saying to our kids? What are the
I
questions
think-
we should ask them?
How do you feel about what I post on social media?
Yep.
And the key to that is to let them tell you and not have a reactionary response of defense or
Ooh, that's good, Noelle.
yeah, I mean, because I could be like, well, this
Crossing
is
our
what
arms.
yeah, like,
Getting
oh,
it.
you don't think I'm funny, do you? But I think that's the question I do ask, like, how do you feel about what I post? And the thing is, because they don't have social media, they don't see a lot of it. But sometimes they do, and they're like, I they're funny. Like my one child's like, well, mom, I think it's great that you're doing this. You're trying to do your dream. Like he can be, it's sort of like,
You're like, thanks.
you're trying to be funny, but keep going, you'll get there.
Oh my
Don't quit your
like,
day job, mom.
yeah. There's no like, and listen, the three of them are like this. Like I have my two kids and my husband, and my husband's like, yeah, this is clever. I'm like, really? Because 160,000 people liked it. So I don't know what's wrong with you. But I think that it's easy to get offended if they don't like it.
It's good.
So let them share their feelings, and then ask good follow-up questions like, well, what would you prefer me? Would you prefer me not to be on social media at all? Because that's not going to happen. But I mean, just kind of letting there be a conversation about it. Because I also think about, what if it was flipped and they were documenting everything about me without
glory.
my control over what goes out there? Like me losing my mind because someone leaves their shoes at the front door again. I trip for the 400th million time. Like, what if they
there's my mom freaking out.
Totally do that. I mean, or just even the dumb stuff I say. I mean, I'm kind of known.
Those are the kind of videos that go viral.
Those are the videos listen. That's why they're on social media. There's more to that reason. No, just kidding. But I mean, I think that the idea is, I think my philosophy now in parenting is, I do think we have to show our kids, give them the respect and the dignity that they deserve to some degree. I mean, if can a 4-year-old really speak to this? No, in the sense that, like, if you ask little 4-year-old Sally, how do you feel about mommy posting on social media? They're just going to want to please you. But I would challenge any listener and challenge myself to think, well, what if it was flipped? And, it was me that they were documenting. And how would I feel about that? So I don't know. It's tough. This is a tough one, guys. And it's constantly changing. So this is a constant thing that we have to probably let our policies evolve too.
Yeah. Well, you brought up age. We didn't touch on, like, does age matter? I mean, I know people whose accounts are growing because they have the most adorable, beautiful little kids, but they're not going to be those little kids. And there's no criticism or judgment on them.
No,
it's just, at what point, at what age do we start that conversation?
Well, I mean, it's tough because I see a cute little baby and it's like, oh, I mean, it makes my day.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's such a nuanced question. I don't like it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
well, that's
like,
good to say. I mean, it depends on the child, right? Maybe it depends on whether or not they have social media. What's the culture of the community you're in?
I think it also matters when they take an interest.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's the moment that you kind of need to figure out, okay, they have an interest in what you're sharing now. And I mean, that could be very young. Like, I know 6 and 7-year-olds that are like, Mom, let me see my picture. And they're scrolling their mom's Instagram to see the photos of them. And so that may be the age at which it's like, okay, like you said, Noelle, you just say, oh, well, how do you like this? Do you like this post that mommy posted? And that doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to change it. You're still the parent.
Right.
But that begs the conversation to happen sooner, than say, like, my son, who could give a rip, and he's 12 years old, he doesn't care.
Right. He doesn't care.
But my daughter is like, Mom, you cannot post that. She will definitely speak up whenever I'm like, what do you think of this, like, funny reel that I did? And I thought it was so clever. And she's like, Mom, it's dumb. Like, don't post that. So, I get that more often than not. I'm like, well, should I just be serious all the time? She's like, yeah, like, stick with serious. You're so much better.
Oh my gosh.
Are you casting your pearl to the swine, Jess? Are you showing your stuff to somebody who should have no opinion?
I mean, it's like, I love to, like, poke fun at myself, at like, uber Christian people, like, unlike Noelle, like, who has real handle on all of these characters. And by the way, I might be your biggest fan, Noelle. So just saying.
Well, can you tell that to my daughter?
Yeah, please. Our daughters could get together. And
I don't know.
They can commiserate about their mothers on social media.
Oh my gosh. But
they might shut us down. They might just say,
they might shut us down. That's
you're done.
They might, yeah. I think that that's good, Jess. When do they take an interest? Definitely, I think is good. And I think the tricky part is to like kids do want to please for the most part. They want to make their parents happy. And you need to know, like, is your kid the kind of kid, like, I think we agree our daughters will tell us if they don't like something, but you could have a kid who just will never tell you, but inside will be dying with every post. So I think you really do actually have to like go to the Lord and bring it to him too and say, Lord, well, you know, I'm doing the social media thing and I want to honor my family in this. Can you, Holy Spirit, show me, is there something I'm missing? And maybe the Lord's going to reveal to you, yeah, like little Bobby, he's never going to tell you he hates this. So, you know what I'm saying? I think like the Lord can fill in those holes sometimes for us all the time, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been times when I've like delete, because I know there's a tap on my shoulder that's like, you don't need to post that.
Yeah.
And it's like Danny Shapiro said, it's like, you know, if you're writing a book and you're writing your side of the story, that's one thing. But the last book I wrote, like there was a whole section. It wasn't really my story to tell. It was someone else's story, but it was so relevant. I was like, this is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. So I went to that person and I asked for permission and I sent the entire story and said, hey, I need you to approve this, and got documentation. Now, do we do that with our kids? Maybe we should, and say, hey, this is what I'm planning on posting.
Yeah.
Any edits you think I should make, you know, or are you not comfortable with this? And if you're not comfortable, then you as a mother have to be strong enough to say, okay, I'll find something else. I'm creative enough, right? The Holy Spirit is creative enough to find something different that won't make our children feel uncomfortable. Like, let's not be part of the problem, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that we can keep in mind that we can eliminate unnecessary layers of information. Sometimes, I mean, we've learned this with writing, what they say, kill your babies, right?
Oh my, wait,
like
Oh
taking
gosh.
I know, sorry.
It got real dark real
I
fast.
don't stand
No,
behind
that's
this.
okay. That's a
I
Stephen
formally am
King.
saying
I think that's a
do
Stephen
not
King
stand-
quote about writing. Kill your darlings. That's it.
Okay.
Oh my God.
This is
Please
the
don't kill your
example
babies.
that Jess gave. The thing you say that can be totally taken out of context. And
Yup.
Kimberly Michi once said to kill
Jesus
your
Kim said, kill the babies.
No.
Jesus Kim, kill the babies. Oh gosh,
I
we
am
lost
not
it.
beyond
No.
that.
No. It's kill your darlings.
Kill your
That's what it
darlings.
is. Okay.
Okay.
So this
okay.
whole idea of like, as writers, we will write and we'll write and we'll add these layers of detail that we just don't need. And if we can edit that down and just write the important thing, we can save ourselves a lot of trouble. It's better writing. And I think that can be the same when it comes to posting. Like if you eliminate those extra layers of information, I think that's one way we can protect our kids' privacy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And hey, this goes with spouses too, you know. My husband he does not want sometimes I'm like, just take one picture for me. People think we're getting a divorce. Just people are sending me DMs saying we're on the prayer list because they think we've split up because there hasn't been a photo of you in a year.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So take the picture of with, you know, but anyways, every once in a while you'll see him, but he is never, ever going to do a reel with me or be in any of my skits. Never. So there you go.
My
And as we
husband's the opposite. He's like the guy that's always selfies of all of us. And
I follow your husband on Instagram because he's so fun.
Yep. My husband is documenting our life, and then my account is just serious, you know, the professional Jesus Jess.
Jesus Jess.
Jesus Jess. Come on. Get your life together.
Get your life together.
So good.
Man.
So besides Noelle, you mentioned earlier, why am I posting this? Are there any other questions we could be asking ourselves? I guess, is this necessary?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think another good question, like a good framing question, is 10 years from now, how will this reflect on my family or my child?
That's good. That's good.
You know, give you a little bit. It's like down the road, can this be used against them in any way that you can think of? And I love what Noelle said. It's like the Holy Spirit can give you a lot of insight into that. But if you're willing to ask the question, then it can help you, eliminate, like you said, like cut out some layers, or even language that,
Yeah.
10 years down the road might not reflect well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, this was an incredible. Do you want to say something?
Well, I was going to say too, sometimes I think we go through things and we feel inspired by what we've gone through and we want to write about it or talk about it on social media. And it's like the tough, deep stuff. And I would just encourage anybody, because I've made this mistake, so learn from my mistakes, to allow yourself to process it, and maybe even more than what you think you need to process. Go through the grieving, go through the processing before you say anything publicly
Mm-hmm.
on your feed. Because I'm going to give you an example, like a fake example. Like, let's say you go through something really hard in your marriage or whatever, like, just be aware that what you talk about and where you're at in the journey, it will affect the people around you. And sometimes it's better to tell the story from a little bit of a distance, because you're going to have a more fuller picture, a more healed picture with more understanding of other people's perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
So especially for those of us who are in the influence Christian writer world, I would even say we because God teaches us lessons along the way through our pain, we want to share them. But just remember that sharing where you're at in your journey right there and then may not be the wisest thing. It actually might be wiser to let some time go, get a little more counseling. Let's
Amen.
let some other people process too, and let them, just, I don't know if I'm making sense, but
Yeah.
I think
Total
time is
sense.
important, and it can never hurt to wait a little bit longer than what you're even thinking you need to wait before you start talking about things that are private, not private, but personal, vulnerable, that include your family. So
I approve of this message.
not kill your baby's message.
Yes. Awesome.
No, this is good. All things for us to think about. All right. I did not do this in the beginning of the episode, so I'm going to ask you ladies now. What are some things that are making your mom life easier? Recommendations.
Okay. Since I just got my hair done today, black light shampoo, anti-yellowing, can get it on Amazon.
What is this?
It is heaven on earth, especially for those of us that have light colored hair. Yes. And my hair, I actually have reddish undertones, if you'll believe that. And so my hair always pulls like really brassy. And so this is my
No,
saving
that
grace.
might be good for you.
I know.
It
Because you've got those,
extends. Yes, you should try
Black
it.
light shampoo.
Yep. Make sure that you get the anti-yellowing. So it's very specific. Black light. They have a blue one. I've not used that one. I've only used the anti-yellowing one. It's pretty pricey, but you don't need much of it. And literally it comes out of the bottle and it is like the darkest purple you've ever seen.
Really?
Yes.
All right.
Do you
give it a go, Noelle? I want to see how it works in your hair.
Do you use it?
No. Well, no, that's not true. I do, because I don't wash my hair every day.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like twice a week I use it, and you use it after your regular shampoo, and it's basically like a little bit of a toner in it. And so you let it sit on your hair for like 10 minutes and then you just wash it out just like regular shampoo. But it is brilliant.
Black light shampoo. I'm getting my hair done in 2 weeks, so I'm gonna do it.
I can't wait.
I know. What was the question? What's making my life easier?
Your mom life easier, your life easier.
Well,
got you excited.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know if this is something that everyone can have, but my husband just scored a vintage bun coffee maker that used to be an old Charlie Brown steakhouse. So like the kind that you would see in a diner. It's like big commercial where there's 3 pots, 2 like regular and the decaf. Changing my life, because it will brew with under 2 minutes a full pot of coffee. And we're just having so much fun with it. But because we entertain quite a bit, it's kind of nice because we can just keep making as much coffee as needed. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I might have
Something.
to scroll through some vintage resellers to
I
find
know.
one of those. That's
Facebook.
awesome.
Facebook Marketplace.
Okay. That's also a lifesaver.
I know, I was just going to
People
say
don't know
that
about
too.
Facebook Marketplace, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have now
Yeah.
found the resources for all things.
What about you,
Yeah.
Kimberly?
Well, my husband decided he was going to buy an air fryer on Black Friday. So we now have an air fryer and I made
Ooh.
dinner with it tonight. And I know there's so many people that love theirs and I've probably been resistant to it for way too long, but I accidentally bought these Tyson chicken breasts from Costco. I thought they're the ones the kids like, but they're uncooked.
Oh.
So when they try to make them for quick snacks, they're not quick snacks. Like you cut into them and you're like, oh, they still have to cook. We have to put them back in the oven. It's like a good 20, 30 minutes to cook these things in the oven, 14 minutes in the air fryer.
Wow.
Yes. And
don't-
I heard it's amazing for like salmon and French fries come out crispy. And so I've only made one meal, but I have a funny feeling there's a few things that are going to be made a lot easier.
Well, I want to hear it because it sort of sounds like a cult, the air fryer thing. Everybody is getting into it. And I'm like,
Noelle, can we have a skit about the air fryer? I feel a skit coming
there's like
on.
an Instapot cult who are
I
like
know.
everybody makes
Yes.
everything out of their Instant Pot. It's like,
I'm
okay.
part of the Instapot cult. I love that.
Are you?
thing. Yes.
I
Oh my
have
gosh,
one,
yes.
but I'm not a true believer.
My big thing was that we had to find a place for it or I was going to make him take it back because I don't want anything on my counters.
Yeah.
And we had to be able to store it somewhere that could easily get it out, like not in the basement or in, the shed, like it needed to be in my kitchen somewhere. So my husband found a way to rearrange some cabinets, move some shelves, and he made it work and it's easy to, access. And as long as that's the case, I'm like, all right, we can give it a try. But
All
so
right,
far it was pretty amazing. And I hear it's going to be good. So I'll keep you posted.
stay tuned.
All right. Well, thank you so much, ladies. This was awesome. I really enjoyed this conversation.